Well, the season is over for Indiana football, and the question becomes, what now?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, thank you so much for being here, truly making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. And I just want to start out by saying thank you. Thank you so much. We surpassed 4,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Our goal was to do that before the turn of 2025, and you made that possible. So thank you so much for that. On the way now to 4,100 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you so much. Again, going to look and sound a little bit different for the next week and a half or so, traveling around for the holidays, so appreciate you bearing with me on that, but still want to give you as much content as possible, and we got a lot to get to on the show today. Indiana basketball struggles once again with a non-conference inferior opponent. They let Chattanooga come in and compete. We'll talk about that. Don't worry. We've got thoughts here on the show. Plus, the question that everybody was asking about Indiana, about SMU, about Clemson, even about Tennessee. Did we belong in the college football playoff? But the thing we need to start with is the unfortunate thing. And the fact of the matter is, the season's over. Indiana football, we're done. The season has come to an end. And as we said on the postcast on Friday night, the Locked On Hoosiers squad postcast show with Spencer McLaughlin and with Brian Smith, like, this season was incredible. And there's really no denying that. And nobody's saying otherwise. I mean, there is nobody trying to take that away from us, from Curt Cignetti, from the entire staff, from the entire roster, from the fan base, from the administration. Nobody is taking that away from Indiana football. But here's the fact of the matter. If we want to get to be a legitimate program, a program that is competitive and respected and can be there time and time again, the work starts now. And as great as the season was, you don't get any more brownie points. You don't get any more, way to go, guys, that was great. No more pats on the back. No, season's done. Now it's time to get to work. And you've seen Indiana do that already. We saw us doing that leading up to the college football playoff, and now you hope to see it after the college football playoff. We had an episode go up over the weekend talking about Tayven Jackson, right? The quarterback who is entering the transfer portal for Indiana. And look, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm confused. I'm confused on where Indiana fans sit and stand and sit, because I've talked about portal quarterbacks for the past 2 weeks, and everybody yells and says, no, we're fine. Tayven Jackson's the man. But as soon as Tayven Jackson enters the portal, everybody flips around and they say, we don't need him. We're fine. Everything is fine. I disagree, but we're allowed to do that. That's what makes what we do so much fun and so entertaining, right? And you start looking at what Indiana has just at the quarterback spot. Tyler Cherry, you've got Alberto Mendoza, right? You do have Purcell, sure, but you're losing Rourke to eligibility, and you're losing Tayven Jackson to the transfer portal. So, yeah, Indiana has to go get a quarterback, if not two, in the transfer portal. But on the good news side of things, on something that needs to be celebrated, how about the All-American linebacker, Aiden Fisher, who announced late Sunday night, I guess Sunday evening, if you will, The All-American linebacker will return to Indiana to play and lead that defense once again. He led Indiana with 118 tackles this season. 49 of those were solo tackles and 69 assisted tackles. He led all of those categories on this Indiana football team. Ladies and gentlemen, that cannot be understated. That cannot be overlooked. This is massive for Indiana. So the question is, now what? What now? Well, you celebrate with Aiden Fisher coming back, but you still have a ton of work to do. You have to go get an offensive line. You have to go get a defensive line. You have to go get more receivers to throw the ball to for whoever your quarterback is going to be in 2025. You have to go get more dudes in the secondary because they're not all going to come back. Some of them don't have the option to come back. And this is where we really get to see Curt Cignetti operate as the full-on Indiana coach for the first time in the offseason, right? He came in a year ago and he came in with his hair on fire. Rightfully so, because he got hired. He had to bring everything with him. He brought a bunch of transfers from James Madison and wherever he could get his hands on. But now he's got a little bit of time and more time than some of the other playoff teams, but not as much time as teams that didn't make the college football playoff. So we're kind of stuck in the middle of all of that. But the two biggest storylines so far are Tayven Jackson entering and Aiden Fisher coming back. And as I said in the episode over the weekend, talking about the Tayven Jackson entry to the portal, you could check that out here on the Locked On Hoosiers YouTube channel or on our audio platforms as well. That's huge news, and you have to go get somebody there. But now we get to see what Curt Cignetti's all about. Now we get to see what Indiana has up their sleeves in terms of what we can do with NIL, what we can do with playing time, what we are willing and capable of offering in all of those categories. Because remember, it's about two things. The questions that players ask: how much can you play me? And how much can you pay me? And Indiana better have answers to those questions. Whether you think the end of the year was a success or a failure, there are things to build on. And I believe in Curt Cignetti doing that. You lose Tino Sunseri, you got to go replace him, right? Asking now what now? You got to go replace him. You got to go get a new quarterbacks coach, a new guy who can help you offensively. And what if you lose more coaches? You very well could. You'll have to replace them as well. There's a lot of work to do for this Indiana staff and head coach Curt Cignetti between portal, recruiting, replacing coaches, and just getting the program back to where it needs to be. Year one was a success, but now it's time to build on that for an upcoming year two. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, there's tons of questions flying around. College football fans are all up in arms because, let's just be real, first round of the playoffs was not all that impressive. It was actually pretty boring, and yeah, Indiana had something to do with that. So did we belong? Did the Hoosiers belong in the playoff? We'll talk about that coming up next right here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? It happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I signed up for years ago and didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together all in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals that you want to hit in 2025. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. And that subscription tracker, I'm telling you folks, it works. You think you have it all figured out. There's some out there you have no idea you're paying for. So that's what you need Rocket Money for. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. rocketmoney.com/locked on. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on all things Indiana athletics. Whether you're watching on the video side on YouTube or you're listening on the audio side on whichever platform you're on, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, appreciate you being here and being an everydayer. Also, for those of you that have subscribed to the channel, liked the videos, liked the audio episodes, giving us 5-star reviews, whatever you're able to do to help out this show, I really do appreciate it. And even here on a Christmas week, right, got a lot to be thankful for and a lot to be happy about, and you are a big part of that. So thank you so much. We got to address what the questions were on social media from national broadcasters, national radio heads, and TV heads, and anybody that had a smartphone or a microphone basically let their thoughts be known this weekend about the college football playoff. And look, I get it. I do. I absolutely get the frustration from Alabama fans, from Ole Miss fans, from South Carolina fans. Those are the big teams that didn't get in that felt like they should have. And I also understand where people are coming from in terms of just college football fans, where, let's be real, the first round of the college football playoff sucked. It was boring. It was lame. They were blowouts. Yeah, Indiana made it close at the end. We tried. But the final score doesn't tell how that game played out. Sure, Clemson kept it close late and had a chance to make it a one-score game, but they didn't, right? And then Penn State dominated SMU, made them look silly, made them look like a JV high school team on a Saturday morning. And same thing with Ohio State over the second-best team that the SEC had to offer in Tennessee, right? Through the first 3 games, Indiana, Notre Dame, and Penn State, SMU, and Clemson in Texas. Everybody was saying, wow, way to go, playoff committee. You guys did great. Way to keep us entertained, right? That's what Lane Kiffin, the head coach at Ole Miss, had to say. Way to keep us entertained. We should have been there, not you, yada, yada, yada. SMU didn't belong. Indiana didn't belong. That's what everybody wanted to say until Ohio State did what they did against Tennessee. Now, do I think that Indiana belonged in the college football playoff? Absolutely. We 100% belonged in the college football playoff. We deserved to be there. We earned the right to be there, and we were supposed to be there. Did we perform the way we were supposed to? No, we didn't. We didn't perform anywhere near what we were capable of performing. Not like we did all season long. That was the worst game we played all year. And that includes the Ohio State game, by the way. But just because you go up against a team that outmatched you, out-talented you, out-physicaled you, out-manned you, out-game-planned you, and most importantly, they out-executed you. Just because that happens doesn't mean you didn't belong there. That doesn't mean you were undeserving of a playoff spot. I believe that about Indiana. I believe that about SMU. I believe that a little bit about Clemson, but they got their way in automatically, right? And I believe that about Tennessee. I don't think there was a single team in the playoff that didn't deserve to be there. Were there visible differences in how good Texas was versus Clemson? Absolutely. Penn State over SMU? No doubt about it. And again, Notre Dame over us, Indiana. Yeah, there were visible differences. But that doesn't mean we didn't belong. And for those in other conferences, especially the SEC, who is just undefeated in hypothetical games, let me tell you what, Alabama against the 84 Bears, they would beat them. If you ask Alabama fans, they'd beat Superman if you ask them, because hypotheticals is all they have right now. And what's unfortunate for them, not that I feel bad for them at any means and anybody in the SEC, but Tennessee was their saving grace Saturday night. And that fell through hard. And they shut right up when Ohio State, after being embarrassed by Michigan just a couple of weeks ago, turns around and embarrasses the second best team out of the Southeastern Conference. So I'm in agreement that there needs to be some changes. Strength of schedule, sure, has to be looked at. But I also believe that automatic bids have to change a little bit. And first round buys have to change a little bit. Like, you should be rewarded for winning your conference. Absolutely. But the fact that Arizona State didn't have to play this weekend kind of rubs me the wrong way. And I think I think they set it up for blowouts to happen, for blowouts to exist. Like, I don't know. I think the system has to change where you have Indiana and Boise State. You have two smaller teams, good teams, but smaller teams get in, but have to earn their way to play the bigger teams. I mean, you set up now Ohio State, Tennessee. That I don't know where that came from. Ohio State, look, that's probably the best game they've played all year, right? I mean, that game I have no explanation for. But for the people, because there were blowouts, to say that Indiana, SMU, Tennessee, or Clemson didn't belong, you're just wrong. You're flat out wrong about that. And here's what I say to Alabama fans, Ole Miss fans, South Carolina fans, or any other fans whose team didn't make the college football playoff. You know what I say to you? Win your games. Win your games. If you win, you're in. That's the formula. You win and you're in. It's that simple. I don't care what conference you play in. If you're a Power 4 team and you win your games, you will be in the college football playoff. I don't care if you think your schedule's harder than somebody else's. Win and you're in. I don't care if your schedule's easier than somebody else's. Win and you're in. I don't care if you play 7 top 25 teams and another team doesn't play a single one. Win and you're in. What somebody else does not dictate what you do on any given Saturday on a football field for 4 quarters for the next 3.5 hours. That doesn't matter. Do I think it should have some impact on seeding? Absolutely. 100%. Strength of schedule, strength of record, all of those things should matter in terms of seeding. But for a team out of the Big Ten like Indiana to go and have just 1 loss on the regular season, double-digit wins, 11 wins on the year, the most historical season in the history of the program, and for people to say we didn't belong in the playoffs, it's just wrong. It's incorrect. And they're just salty because they didn't make it in. And that's the end of the story. And that's where I sit. Things will change. The system will change. The formula will change. The number of teams will change. It will always change. But Indiana belonged in the college football playoff. And for right now, I don't think I can be convinced otherwise. And I'm okay with that, to be quite honest with you. All right, coming up here on the final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, we'll flip over to basketball for a little bit, where if you had the courage to watch Indiana athletics, given how Friday night went, you probably didn't feel too good after watching Indiana basketball against Chattanooga. It was almost a disaster. We'll talk about that in our final segment coming up right here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, which is crazy to think about, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players are going to score a touchdown, or how many points each team will score, or even those first touchdown scores. Oh yeah, it is thrilling. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. All right, final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here and bearing with me on the quality differential, if there is one, video, audio, whatever the case may be. We'll be back home in the start of the new year. And hopefully with the start of a new year in 2025, not a new season, just a new year, maybe Indiana basketball will figure out how to play and take care of inferior opponents. Maybe Mike Woodson will have this coming to Jesus moment where he decides to change the way he coaches a basketball team. Maybe in 2025, Indiana will just flip a switch and realize how talented we are and start playing legitimate basketball. But that's what we're hoping for 2025. And in case you haven't checked the calendar, we hadn't flipped over to that yet. And that was the case when Indiana played Chattanooga on Saturday morning. 74-65. Indiana wins. We won the game. Sure. I mean, we won the game inside of Assembly Hall. Fans weren't happy. They were there, but they weren't happy. Fans watched. We weren't happy. Fans listened. They weren't happy. I mean, here we go again against an opponent that I've called inferior who, yes, they're not bad. Chattanooga is not a bad team. Don't get fooled by the logo, right? I've told you, you've seen it across college athletics, football, basketball, baseball, swimming and diving, lacrosse, it does not matter. Teams like Chattanooga are better now than they've ever been before because of the NIL and because of the transfer portal. Like, it's just a fact. But Indiana is still so much better than Chattanooga. We should not be stressing like this on a Saturday morning in Assembly Hall the day after our football team loses, right? We shouldn't have to go through this as Indiana fans. We're good people, right? We're good people here. And Indiana basketball is going to give me so many heart attacks this year, or maybe just completely rip my heart out altogether. Because, look, let's just say it like it is. If we're struggling with Chattanooga, we're going to struggle with every opponent we play in the Big Ten. The fact that we're 1-1 in the Big Ten is a miracle. I mean, it's fascinating to me. And I don't care that it's only been Minnesota and Nebraska. Have you seen college basketball this year? Have you seen the Big Ten? We are going to get eaten alive. Alive if we play the way that we played against Chattanooga. Indiana wins 74-65. Defensively, second half was okay. First half was terrible. First half, we trailed almost the whole time until we went on a run in the final 4 or 5 minutes, and we're up by 3. Offensively, man, it's bad. I mean, it is so bad, and just you can hear it, you can see it. I'm just so frustrated because it's so old school and it's so boring and it's stagnant and it just is not working. You scored 33 points in the second half. If your defense doesn't play well, you lose this basketball game. You would have lost to the Mocs of Chattanooga inside of Assembly Hall on a Saturday morning. And it's so hard to digest the issues here because, right, we've complained about the big men play. Malik Renew had a solid game, right? 14 points for Malik on 7 of 12 shooting. Shocker. He was in foul trouble again. Mackenzie Mbako bounced back well, was happy with his performance. 14 points, 5 of 7 shooting, 3 of 4 from downtown. Your starters were okay. Umar Ballo not having double-doubles really upsets me. 9 points and 8 rebounds. Solid. He should be a walking double-double, and he's not. Trey Galloway was okay. Had 8 points. Miles Rice took a step back. I mean, Cannon Carlisle started out okay and kind of slowed down as the game went on. Nobody had a bad game. Nobody had a bad game. Even Miles Rice. I mean, I still think he contributed, right? Had some assists, had a couple turnovers, but that's fine. The problem is nobody had a super bad game, but nobody's having any good games. Nobody's having great games. This offense is not good. 74 points against Chattanooga is not okay. That's a bad sign. That's a really bad sign. And under every post, under every video, under anything that has the IU logo on it that's talking about Indiana basketball, every single comment, look at the ones on this video if you're watching on YouTube right now. Everything says, fire Woodson, fire Mike. Won't watch until Woody's gone. Woody's done. Woody needs to leave. Indiana's in trouble until Mike Woodson is gone. Mike Woodson has lost this fan base. He has lost the fan base because of games like this against Chattanooga, where you go several minutes without scoring. You at times cannot get a stop. It's sloppy, it's slow, it's boring, and it's ineffective. It does not work. The style of play, the laziness, and the just lack of effort is exhausting to watch. Because, I mean, we can see it, right? You can see the talent on this team. You can see how if they have the right coaching and they have the right game plan, man, this team could really be good. Like, really, really good. Umar Ballow's a stud. Malik Renew could be one of the best players in college basketball. Mackenzie Mbaka with some confidence could be one of the best three-point shooters in the Big Ten. Yes, I said it. One of the best three-point shooters in the Big Ten with some confidence and an offense that works to get him open. But that doesn't happen. Your bench is ineffective most times. Your guards are inconsistent. And your bigs can't defend without fouling. But the problem is, nothing changes. It's the same game every single time on the floor. It just depends on if the other team decides to show up or not. Can the other team shoot? Can the other team make free throws? Can the other team just throw it to the right color jersey? If they do, they're going to beat us. If they don't, Indiana may have a chance. And so for Indiana now, again, the frustration for me is setting in. You can see it. You can hear it. I feel like I speak for so many of you Hoosier basketball fans. The confidence and the excitement and the hype we had preseason has dwindled away almost immediately in what was a pretty easy non-conference slate. And now we've got Winthrop coming up in a week, right on the 29th. And then you open up with Rutgers, who comes to Assembly Hall, right? Comes to Assembly Hall with all the talent in the world to play in front of a sold-out crowd, to kick off Big Ten play 100%. You're 2 games in. This will get the rest of Big Ten play started with Rutgers, at Penn State, and home for USC before you make a trip to Iowa. I don't have the confidence. I just don't. I'm going to be really honest. I don't. And until I see something that gives me that, until I see the changes that are needed to be made, I have no confidence. And a poor performance against Chattanooga is definitely not going to do it. But a win's a win, sure, in this era of college basketball. But my goodness, the Hoosiers have some problems. And the ones I listed and a whole lot more, Woody, you better get them fixed, man. You better get them fixed, because if you don't, your job will be open and the Hoosiers will be looking for somebody else. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much again for being here. Really do appreciate your support. If you're listening on audio, be sure that you are following us on there. Subscribe to the channel if you can on your platform, whichever one you're on. And for those of you watching on the YouTube episode, the YouTube video, right, be sure you like the video, comment down below your thoughts on everything we discussed today. And be sure, if you have not already, to subscribe to the channel. We're over 4,000. Now we're on our way to 4,100, okay? We are back tomorrow, Hoosier fans. We're going to have shows all week for you, even with the Christmas holiday. That's right. We're dedicated here. Want you to have all the content that you can have for basketball, transfer portal, coaching news, you name it. We got it right here on Locked On Hoosiers, okay? We're back tomorrow. So until then, stay safe. I'll talk to you later.